The story now we're going to focus on is a property story, a good news story, because there's a merger going on. Galetti, one of South Africa's foremost commercial property consultancies, has secured a formal relationship with the world's leading independent property group and also the African continent's biggest player. The company's name is Knight Frank. In the Johannesburg Power Lunch studio now is Tony Galetti. Tony, congratulations on this deal. When I used to live in London, I used to walk around places like Fulham and Chelsea and see Knight Frank boards all over the place. Obviously a big player, so quite a feather in your cap to be linked up with them.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. As a group, we're quite excited. Knight Frank is quite a big global player, biggest in Africa, as you said earlier. So it's a great opportunity for the company, and we look forward to growing our business through Knight Frank and also creating opportunity for Knight Frank Global as a business.
As I said, I used to walk around London and see these signs. So my association with Knight Frank Rutley, as I think it was then, is with the residential property market, but obviously not in this case. You have a commercial link up.
Yeah, I think Knight Frank Global is one of the larger commercial property brokerages, certainly by footprint. In Africa, we've got 9 offices, the largest in Africa by some way. In America, it's Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, which is a very large commercial property player. So we certainly are only on the commercial property services side. And they do have a very large residential portfolio and services business. In Cape Town, certainly there's a residential side which is aligned with Ann Porter. But on our side, it's purely on the commercial services side.
So that's what it is. I mean, as you said, they're one of the biggest players on the African continent. So I was going to ask you why they're linking up with you, given their existing presence. But you're going to add what to their business?
Look, I think they've always lacked a solid South African business. They've been big in Africa, and it's been difficult for them to organically grow a business in South Africa. So it made sense for them to link with one of the stronger national brokerages. We fitted the profile quite well. We travelled to MIPIM several years ago, and we'd met Knight Frank, and we'd had ongoing conversations with them. And we just seemed to hit it off, both from a management point of view, a philosophical point of view. The merger seemed to make sense. And we have always focused on being very proactive on having great systems and great IT systems and property systems. And I think it's a great add value for Knight Frank, where we can bring our African expertise and assist them with the growth into Africa.
They're obviously very optimistic about the growth of South Africa and Africa as a continent, both in, or rather all three, commercial, retail and industrial. Some people might say, look, this is the worst time to come in. We're at the top of the cycle. Interest rates are going to rise and the economy is going to turn down as the global economy slows down as well. What would you say to counter that argument?
Look, I'd say domestic demand in African countries is growing, regardless of what's happening with interest rates. There's a demand for retail products. Retail products then spur demand for retail centres, which in turn spurs a demand for logistics centres and factories and office space. And you look at the larger South African companies that are penetrating Africa, they need premises. And so from a property point of view, I think there's going to be a huge boom going forward. And I think it'll last for our generation.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, at the moment, you're sitting in Sandton in CNBC Africa's headquarters. And if you go to other parts, if you drive for a couple of 100 kilometres, there are areas not quite as affluent, which aren't quite as potentially lucrative to companies like yours. Do you see that there are various geographical nodes that you're going to be focusing on?
Look, the main centre is always where the immediate growth will be, and it's easier to manage growth in those areas. But the outlying areas, I think there's going to be a lot of growth, certainly from the retail centre point of view. You talk about us being in Sandton at the moment. We do a lot of work in the Eastern Cape, in the former township areas, where we're assisting in developing shopping centres, logistics hubs, and we see that trend as a growing trend. We all know the listed property sector has done very well in South Africa recently, but a large of the exposure is to the well-developed nodes. But now we're finding a lot of the listed guys are coming to us and say, look, we'd like to be exposed to these areas where there's going to be a lot of growth. So I think the outlying areas there's going to be a lot of growth going forward.
Let's hope so. Of the three, commercial, industrial and retail, which is the one you'd like to focus on? The reason I ask that is because with the petrol price going up, retail may come under pressure as people have less money in their pockets. I don't know if there's a correlation between the state of the South African consumer and the vacancies in retail space, but I assume there is. But which one are you most optimistic about?
Retail has got other pressures. Online sales, internet sales affect the retail shopping centres, but from a personal point of view, I think logistics is going to be a big growth area, specifically into Africa, where the logistics areas have to follow the retail development. B-grade office space currently in the developed nodes in South Africa, Sandton, Cape Town, it's under a little bit of pressure. So you really need to be able to extract value out of your B-grade office space. And that's purely because a lot of AAA grade new green buildings are coming to market, which is putting pressure on B-grade office space.
Tony, we'll leave it there, but congratulations on your deal. That's Tony Galetti, the joint CEO and also co-founder of a new entity called Galetti Knight Frank. Very quick one on